Imagine, for just a second, that you have done absolutely everything right in your entire life.
Right, everything.
You have been perfectly honest, completely incorruptible, and just, well, flawlessly moral for 25 straight years.
That is a long time to be perfect.
It really is. You never took a single shortcut. You never accepted a bribe, not even a tiny favor. You laid your head on your pillow every single night with a crystal clear conscience.
A rare thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then one day you wake up and realize that society's unwritten rules are entirely rigged against you.
Completely rigged.
You realize that to save your own family, to just survive in a world that operates on a completely different frequency, you might have to take all those morals, all that hard-won integrity, and throw it completely out the window.
That is a terrifying thought.
Welcome to this full summary for the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. Before we really get into this, before we unpack this incredible story, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share your valuable comments below. Your support means the world.
It really does. Thank you so much for joining us.
Today, our mission in this deep dive is to take you on an extensive, truly immersive exploration of Munshi Premchand's literary masterpiece, Sevasadan.
Which translates to House of Service.
Right. And to really get to the bottom of the profound societal commentary layered into this narrative, we are also bringing in some fascinating thematic threads from two of Premchand's other landmark works.
We are pulling from Karmabhoomi and Kayakalp.
Yes, those two.
Oh.
We're going to put all these pieces together to understand a world that is supposedly set in the past but feels terrifyingly present.
And it is so crucial that we bridge that gap for you, because while these texts were written in early 20th century India during the British Raj, the core dilemmas inside them are incredibly modern.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about the intense, crushing pressure to succeed financially in a system that is literally designed to keep you down. The agonizing clash between your personal integrity and what your family and society demand of you.
The systemic trap of corruption.
Exactly. The insidious way systemic corruption can trap even the most principled individuals. These are struggles that you, listening right now, can likely relate to.
Without a doubt.
Whether it is navigating toxic office politics, dealing with unbearable financial strain, or just trying to be a decent person in a world that seems to actively reward bad behavior, Premchand's psychological insights are sharper than ever.
Okay, let's unpack this. We need to start with the man at the dead center of this impossible trap.
Yes.
His name is Krishna Chandra, and he is a sub-inspector or a daroga in the police force.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to really picture the setting here.
It is a local police station in a deeply hierarchical colonial era system.
Right, an environment where corruption isn't just a bug in the system.
It is the operating system.
It is the operating system. And yet, Krishna Chandra is this solitary pillar of fierce honesty for a quarter of a century, 25 years. He never took a bribe. He never accepted the traditional dalils.
Which is a really important concept to anchor right now. Dalils were essentially customary gifts or offerings.
Just part of the culture.
In that era, and frankly in many bureaucracies today, these weren't even viewed as bribes by the people giving or receiving them. They were seen as mandatory greasing of the wheels.
Like tipping.
A way to show respect, to ensure your paperwork didn't mysteriously disappear, just a way to keep the machinery moving smoothly.
Right, the classic cost of doing business. But Krishna Chandra refuses to touch any of it. And you'd think, in a righteous world, that would make him a celebrated hero, right? A shining example to his peers.
But what's fascinating here is the actual social dynamic of his honesty. In a deeply corrupt ecosystem, being the one honest guy doesn't make you a hero. It makes you a massive liability.
You are a glitch.
You are an active threat. His fellow officers, the clerks, the higher-ups, they are all partaking in this daily feast of bribes and gifts. Krishna Chandra's refusal to participate is a mirror held up to their own moral failings, and it is seen as an insult.
He is basically breaking the Brotherhood's code of silence just by existing.
Yes. So he earns this silent, venomous disdain from pretty much everyone around him. It is an incredibly isolating, lonely existence. He is a man on an island, maintaining his integrity purely through the sheer force of his own internal moral compass.
But wait, is Krishna Chandra really holding on to this honesty purely out of some saintly nobility? Or is there a part of him that actually enjoys the self-righteousness? I mean, is he playing the martyr?
That is a highly cynical view, but a completely valid psychological question to ask. The text does actually paint him as a man with a certain degree of pride in his purity.
You could look down on them.
He absolutely looks down on his colleagues. His honesty is his identity. He doesn't have wealth. He doesn't have influential friends, but he has his pristine reputation. He clings to it because it is literally all he has.
And that is exactly where his moral compass hits a massive brick wall. Because he doesn't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
He has a family. Specifically, he has a wife named Gangajali and 2 daughters, Suman and Shanta.
Suman being the older one.
Right. Suman is 16 years old. She is incredibly beautiful and described as quite ambitious and proud. And in the society they live in, 16 is the age where the clock has not just struck midnight, the alarm bells are ringing.
Loudly.
Society, and crucially his wife Gangajali, demands that Suman be married immediately. But there is a colossal obstacle standing in the way.
The dowry system.
The dowry system.
This is the mechanism that absolutely crushes his moral high ground. Finding a suitable, educated groom from a respectable family requires an exorbitant dowry. The narrative specifies this ranges from 4,000 to 5,000 rupees.
Which is...
Now, to a modern ear, that number might just sound like a figure in a book. We have to anchor what 5,000 rupees meant for a man like Krishna Chandra.
Yes, let's put that in perspective for you. What are we actually talking about here?
To put that in context, a sub-inspector at that time might make 30 to 50 rupees a month. He is being asked to produce roughly a decade's worth of his total gross wages overnight. It's the equivalent of telling an average middle-class worker today, you need to hand over $500,000 in cash right now, or your child's life is ruined.
It is staggering.
And because Krishna Chandra is a rigidly honest police inspector who has saved next to nothing because he only ever lived on his meager legal salary, that sum is astronomical. It's practically mythical. He has absolutely no savings.
It is a tragic irony. The very trait that defines his goodness, his honesty, has suddenly become his most catastrophic liability. Gangajali is constantly in his ear, acting as the voice of traditional societal expectations.
And she isn't doing it to be cruel.
No, she is terrified for her daughter's future. She's insisting that this marriage simply must happen. It's not a luxury. It is a matter of basic survival and social dignity.
And Krishna Chandra tries so desperately to hold on to his ideals. Premchand gives us these heartbreaking moments where Krishna Chandra reads these progressive anti-dowry articles in the newspaper.
Hoping they will save him.
Right, hoping, almost childishly, that these editorials will somehow magically change his immediate crushing reality.
He is grasping at intellectual straws while his house is literally on fire. The real world, governed by rigid social hierarchies and economic transactions, doesn't care about newspaper editorials.
Not at all. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Premchand wasn't just exploring this idea in Sevasadan. This violent clash between high-minded ideals and the brutal, ugly necessity of wealth was an absolute obsession for him as an author.
Which brings us to Kayakalp.
Yeah.
We see this exact tension debated openly, almost like a philosophical trial.
Precisely. In Kayakalp, there's a brilliant character named Manorama, and she argues fiercely, practically aggressively, that wealth is the actual root of all happiness, all welfare, and even all religion in the world.
She does not hold back.
She is in a heated debate with the Thakur, a man of high social standing who claims that the wealthy are the ones committing all the atrocities, that wealth corrupts the soul.
But she shuts him down.
She completely shuts him down. She counters that without wealth, you cannot even practice religion properly. You cannot build temples, you cannot feed the poor, you cannot do good deeds. She argues that society has made wealth the primary engine of life, and to pretend you can float above it on a cloud of morality is to lose all agency in the real world.
I love that debate because it connects so perfectly to the other thematic excerpt we were looking at from Karmabhoomi. You have this wealthy, pragmatic character, Lala Samarkand.
Yes.
And he is just endlessly frustrated, constantly complaining about his idealistic son, Amarkand. The son wants to live in poverty, to be a man of the people, to share in their suffering.
Very noble on paper.
Right. But the father, Samarkand, firmly believes that only those with actual capital can truly serve the public. He basically says, you want to help the poor. How are you going to do that if you are starving alongside them? You need money to enact change.
He sees his son's idealism not as noble, but as a foolish, self-indulgent luxury.
It is a profound point. Is poverty a virtue, or is it just an inability to act? And that is the exact crushing realization that is washing over Krishna Chandra in Sevasadan. He has a moment of agonizing clarity.
Premchand gives us a brilliant, devastating metaphor for this awakening.
He with us.
Krishna Chandra compares his entire adult life to a man who falls asleep under a shady tree on a pleasant afternoon, feeling peaceful and totally content.
So nice.
But then he wakes up, stretches, and finds himself standing at the base of an insurmountable, jagged mountain that he must now climb barefoot.
Barefoot.
He realizes, with a sickening drop in his stomach, that his 25 years of pristine good karma mean absolutely nothing without capital. Society doesn't care about his pure soul. It only cares if he has the 5,000 rupees.
He wakes up to the mountain. So what does he do? We move into a sequence that is agonizing to watch unfold. The rationalization of sin. Krishna Chandra decides he has to abandon his morals.
He has to.
He has to secure Suman's future, and the only way to do it is to become the exact monster he has despised for 25 years. And watching his mind work through this is fascinating. He starts rationalizing it to himself.
The mental gymnastics are incredible.
He says, well, everyone else in the station is doing it, and they are sleeping just fine. Society is practically holding a gun to my head and demanding it of me. And then his mind takes that final terrifying leap.
He goes so far as to think, well, maybe God has put me in this position. Maybe God wants it this way.
The psychology of the fall is meticulously detailed by Premchand. The human mind is an absolute master at protecting its own self-image. Krishna Chandra argues with his own conscience like a lawyer in a courtroom.
He somehow convinces himself that his past 25 years of absolute unbroken purity have built up a sort of moral bank account.
Yes, exactly.
And that balance will somehow excuse or absorb this one massive necessary sin. He creates a mental loophole for himself. He tells himself he isn't becoming a corrupt man. He is a good man making a tragic sacrifice.
And the universe, almost as if it's playing a cruel cosmic joke on him, presents him with the absolute perfect opportunity to cash in that moral purity. Enter a character named Mahant Ramdas.
This guy.
Now, this guy is a piece of work. He is a powerful, deeply corrupt religious figure. A Mahant isn't just a priest. In this context, he operates almost like an untouchable feudal lord.
He wields immense social and spiritual power.
And Ramdas uses this power to extort money from poor, desperate peasants under the guise of religious devotion to the deity Sri Banki Bihari Ji.
He is essentially running a holy mafia.
Exactly, a holy mafia. He charges 32% interest on loans, and his power is absolute and incredibly visible. Picture this. He doesn't just walk into a village. He travels with a literal procession of elephants, the gilded palanquin, a whole entourage of armed guards and fanatical followers.
The sensory overwhelm of his arrival is designed to terrify the poor into submission.
He's the ultimate hypocrite, cloaking sheer greed in the sacred robes of religion. And this extortion recently escalated into outright tragedy.
Yeah.
The Mahant caused the death of a poor ahir.
A local herdsman.
Right, a herdsman named Chetu. Chetu was already starving, already struggling to keep his family alive, and he refused to pay a forced, exorbitant contribution that the Mahant demanded for a massive religious feast.
And because Chetu dared to refuse, the Mahant's men beat him severely. And the beating resulted in Chetu's death.
And who was the officer assigned to investigate this brutal murder? Sub-Inspector Krishna Chandra.
The tension here is just incredible.
Talk about a contrast. You have the holy Mahant, who is in reality a murderer and a loan shark traveling on elephants. And you have the lowly lawman, Krishna Chandra, who is currently pure, but is actively, desperately looking for a way to become corrupt.
Krishna Chandra arrives at the village. He looks at the evidence. He has witnesses. He knows he has the Mahant dead to rights. He could lock him away forever.
But as he looks at the Mahant's wealth, he also knows this is it. This is his golden ticket to Suman's dowry.
There is a highly illustrative, chilling conversation Krishna Chandra has with his wife, Gangajali, right before he makes the final leap into the abyss.
It is so well written.
He returns home from the investigation and he tests the waters with her. He doesn't say, I'm going to take a bribe. He uses a metaphor. He asks her, if a tiger is behind you and a rushing river is in front of you, what do you do?
And Gangajali, who has been the one pushing for the money, answers with brutal pragmatism. She says she would jump into the river.
It's better to risk drowning and have a chance at survival than to stand still and be eaten by the tiger, for sure.
And Krishna Chandra looks at her and replies, I have jumped. Whether I drown or survive, I don't know.
Wow.
I have jumped. Just think about the gravity of those three words. It really forces you to consider how often genuinely good people are pushed into terrible actions by broken, unforgiving systems.
Squeeze a human being hard enough, threaten their child's future, back them into a corner, and the mind will masterfully construct whatever rationalizations are necessary to justify the unthinkable.
He jumps into the corrupt river. But as we quickly see, jumping in is one thing. He has absolutely no idea how to swim in these waters.
That is the tragic flaw that brings about his spectacular downfall. He is entirely green when it comes to corruption. He doesn't know the etiquette of the underworld.
Right, there are rules.
Krishna Chandra approaches a middleman to facilitate the deal. In the legal and bureaucratic system of the time, this middleman was known as a Mukhtar, essentially a legal agent or a fixer who operated in the gray areas between the courts, the police, and the wealthy elite.
Krishna Chandra uses this Mukhtar to negotiate a 3,000 rupee bribe from the Mahant in exchange for destroying the evidence and covering up the murder of Chitu.
Okay, so the deal is struck. 3,000 rupees. It's not the full 5,000, but it's life-changing money. The Mukhtar brings him the cash. The physical money is sitting right there.
Does he actually get away with it?
He would have. The cover-up was solid. He would have walked away a wealthy man, married off his daughter, and lived the rest of his life with a guilty conscience but a secure family.
If it weren't for a fatal, almost comedic miscalculation driven by his own ego.
This is where it gets incredibly painful to watch. The Mukhtar, having brokered this massive illegal deal, expects his customary cut.
Just like a real estate agent today expects a commission, or a corporate headhunter expects a finder's fee, a corrupt middleman expects his percentage.
The Mukhtar asks for his 5% cut out of the 3,000 rupee bribe money, which is roughly 150 rupees, a totally standard fee in the world of bribery.
But Krishna Chandra flat out refuses to give it to him.
And we really have to examine the psychological reasoning behind this refusal. It's baffling at first glance. Krishna Chandra tells the Mukhtar, "I am selling my soul, not looting."
Selling my soul, not looting. It's absurd.
It is absurd, but it makes perfect sense to him. It is this bizarre, lingering manifestation of his pride. Even as he is literally holding blood money, taking a bribe to cover up the murder of an innocent herdsman, he is desperately trying to maintain some twisted sense of moral superiority over the Mukhtar.
He feels he is doing this purely out of tragic, noble necessity for his daughter.
He views his own corruption as a holy sacrifice. And because it's a sacrifice, he feels it is tainted if he lets this sleazy, genuinely corrupt agent take a piece of his pure bribe.
He doesn't understand that corruption isn't a moral play, it's a business.
And he just broke the fundamental rule of business. You pay your vendors.
You never, ever offend the middleman. The Mukhtar isn't just annoyed. He's incandescent with rage. He feels completely disrespected. So the slighted Mukhtar doesn't just walk away and grumble. He goes straight to the police station.
And remember the environment we established earlier.
The other officers at the station, the superiors, the clerks, they all already despise Krishna Chandra. They have hated him for decades because of his supposed purity and his silent arrogance.
The Mukhtar walks in and exposes the entire plot to them. He hands them the one honest man in the precinct on a silver platter.
It is the perfect storm of vengeance. The corrupt officers finally have the leverage they've always dreamed of having over the man who made them feel morally inferior. They don't hesitate for a second.
And the timing Premchand orchestrates here is absolutely brutal.
Let's set the scene for you. Krishna Chandra has the money. The dowry is secured. The wedding preparations for Suman are in full swing at his home. There is music, there are decorations. The family is finally breathing a sigh of relief.
They think they are safe.
And right in the middle of this joyous chaos, the superintendent of police arrives with a warrant.
The irony is suffocating. The very officers that Krishna Chandra used to look down upon, the ones he despised for taking petty bribes of a few rupees here and there, are the ones physically slapping the handcuffs on his wrists.
In one single blinding instant, a 25-year reputation turns to absolute ash. The wedding songs are playing, the guests are gathering, and the patriarch of the family is dragged away as a common criminal.
So what does this all mean?
Think about the sheer fragility of a human reputation. You can build a brick by agonizing brick for decades. You can sacrifice your comfort, your wealth, your social standing to maintain it.
And a single compromise, a single moment of weakness,
compounded by a failure to understand the rules of the game you just entered, can unravel a lifetime of integrity in a matter of hours.
It is the total collapse of his entire universe. And this arrest isn't the end of the tragedy. It's the catalyst for the real horror of the story.
Because Krishna Chandra went to jail attempting to secure a prestigious, respectable marriage for his daughter Suman, he inadvertently detonates a bomb that destroys her prospects entirely.
Right. The shockwaves hit Suman instantly. The dowry money is seized as evidence. The family's reputation is publicly obliterated. With her father now a disgraced, convicted felon, no wealthy, educated, respectable family will touch Suman.
She is tainted goods in the eyes of their society.
The family is desperate. They have an unmarried 16-year-old girl and no money. So Suman is quickly, almost hastily, married off to a man named Gadadhar.
And Gadadhar is a massive step down socially and economically from what was planned. He is a man of lower status, he earns very little, and more importantly, his character is deeply flawed.
He has a petty, insecure, and fiercely suspicious nature.
Fast forward 2 years. Suman is utterly miserable. Premchand paints this devastating sensory picture of her reality. We are told she used to be proud. She used to wear beautiful clothes provided by a father who adored her.
Now, 2 years into this marriage, her silk clothes are literally tearing at the seams. She has lost all her social status. She is living in near poverty.
And the psychological toll is immense. She looks at the women around her, specifically a woman named Subhadra. Subhadra is the wife of a highly respected, wealthy lawyer named Padma Singh.
Suman looks at Subhadra's comfortable life, her clean clothes, the respect she commands in the community, and Suman is consumed with a deep, bitter envy.
And we shouldn't judge Suman too harshly for that envy. She was promised a certain life. Her father ruined himself to try and give it to her, and now she is trapped with a man who resents her.
Gadadhar makes her misery infinitely worse. He is fiercely jealous. He hates that Suman visits Subhadra. He knows Suman is just seeking a tiny sliver of the refined company and conversation she used to know, but Gadadhar's fragile ego interprets it as an insult to him. He thinks she is looking down on him, which, frankly, she might be.
The tension in that tiny house builds and builds until it snaps on one specific terrifying night. Suman is returning late from visiting Padma Singh and Subhadra's house. It's dark. She walks up to her own door and tries to open it.
It's locked from the inside. Gadadhar has locked her out.
This is a pivotal, agonizing scene of psychological terror. Suman knocks, and inside, Gadadhar hears her, but he pretends to be asleep. He deliberately, maliciously ignores her knocks.
He is exerting his petty, tyrannical power over her. He is punishing her for daring to want a life outside of the miserable box he provides.
Suman is left standing outside in the dark, in an era and a place where a woman alone on the streets at night is in extreme danger.
The internal monologue Premchand gives Suman as she sits on the cold stoop outside that locked door is completely heartbreaking. She listens to the sounds of the night. She realizes, with a cold dread, that she has become a thief in her own home.
She has absolutely no place to go. She can't go back to her disgraced family. She can't break down the door. And this scene perfectly, violently highlights the systemic vulnerability of women in the society Premchand is dissecting.
Her entire worth, her physical safety, her literal shelter are entirely 100% tied to the whims of the men in her life.
That is the crucial insight here. When her father fell from grace, she fell. When her husband decides to throw a petty tantrum and throw the deadbolt, she is instantly homeless, defenseless, and socially annihilated.
She is completely adrift in a world that offers no safety net for a woman without a man's protection.
So, with no other options, freezing and terrified, Suman eventually wanders through the night. And her wandering leads her to the only place in the city that takes in women who have been discarded.
The red light district, known as Dalmandi.
Suman transitions from being a respectable, albeit impoverished, wife into living as a courtesan. And the irony is just sickening. Because Krishna Chandra tried to save her from social ruin through corrupt means, he inadvertently set off a chain reaction that pushed his beloved daughter into the exact life of ultimate social exile and degradation that he was willing to sell his soul to avoid.
It is a devastating paradox, and we really need to pause and examine the broader commentary Premchand is making through Suman's descent into Dalmandi. We often look at an arranged marriage and the life of a courtesan as two opposite ends of the moral spectrum.
Sure.
But Premchand brilliantly suggests they are two sides of the exact same coin.
How so?
Think about the mechanics of both institutions in this society. In her arranged marriage, Suman's body, her labor, and her future were transacted for a dowry. Her father was supposed to pay a man to take her. In Dalmandi, her body and her time are transacted for direct payment from wealthy men. In both scenarios, she is entirely commodified. She is a transactional asset.
The only difference between the respectable wife and the disgraced courtesan is that society explicitly sanctions one transaction and hypocritically condemns the other.
But in neither life does Suman actually possess autonomy or genuine respect.
That is a profound, incredibly modern observation. Both systems treat her as property, and her presence in the glamorous, dark world of Dalmandi introduces us to a completely new dynamic in the story. We meet a young man named Sadan.
Now, Sadan is the nephew of that wealthy lawyer, Padma Singh, the husband of the woman Suman used to envy.
The web of connections in this town is very tight.
Very tight. Sadan has just arrived in the city from his rural agricultural village, and he is completely, utterly seduced by the urban landscape. He is mesmerized by it all.
He represents a very specific, recognizable archetype, the violent clash between rural simplicity and the overwhelming temptation of urban decadence.
Sadan is obsessed with the trappings of wealth. It's not about survival for him, it's about vanity. He craves the scented imported soaps, the polished leather shoes, the stiff, uncomfortable European-style collars that his uncle Padma Singh wears.
He wants to look the part of the wealthy city gentleman. But beneath the shiny shoes, Sadan lacks any sort of internal anchor.
He has zero internal conscience. He starts secretly visiting Dalmandi, drawn by the music and the lights, and he becomes completely infatuated with Suman in her new life as a courtesan.
He hides his true identity from her at first. He plays the part of an aristocratic, wealthy patron, feeding his own ego. But internally, he is a mess.
He lives with his uncle Padma Singh, who is constantly giving these grand, sweeping lectures about purity, character, and moral fortitude. Sadan listens to these lectures, feels a brief pang of guilt, resolves to control his desires, and then immediately falls right back into temptation the second the sun goes down.
To illustrate just how deep his moral weakness runs, Premchand gives us a highly specific, infuriating detail. Sadan wants to impress Suman. He wants to buy her an expensive gift, but he doesn't have his own money.
So, to fund his obsession, Sadan actually writes a letter to his mother back in the poor village, lying to her and emotionally manipulating her into sending him 25 rupees.
Which, again, we need to anchor for you. 25 rupees is half a month's salary for a police inspector. It's a massive amount of money for a rural family.
Exactly. And the crucial context here is that Sadan completely, willfully ignores the fact that his father had to take out a massive, crippling, high-interest loan of 700 rupees just to fund Sadan's education and lifestyle in the city.
700 rupees.
His father is breaking his back under the weight of this debt. And what does Sadan do? He takes that 25 rupees he squeezed from his mother, goes to the market, buys an incredibly expensive, delicate silk saree, and secretly leaves it on Suman's vanity as a romantic gesture.
It's just nauseating. It is such a hollow, deeply selfish kind of love. He is willing to bleed his own starving family dry just to show off for a woman who doesn't even know his real name.
And here's where we absolutely have to bring in another thematic connection to Kayakalp. In that novel, we are introduced to a character named Chakradhar. And Chakradhar is the exact polar opposite of Sadan.
Yes. Chakradhar is a fascinating foil. Chakradhar fiercely defends his high ideals. He has a deep commitment to social justice, and he defends it against his own father's cynical pragmatism.
Chakradhar explicitly states that he doesn't care if society mocks him for doing the right thing. He doesn't care about the shiny shoes or the silk shirts. He has a spine of steel.
He has that internal conscience that Sadan is completely missing. Sadan abandons his rural ideals, his respect for his parents' sacrifice, the literal second he sees a beautiful courtesan or a new pocket watch.
Sadan is driven purely by the aesthetic desire to be seen as a tragic, romantic, wealthy figure, completely regardless of the devastating cost to his family or the rot in his own soul.
And speaking of the devastating cost to a family, we need to return to Krishna Chandra's bloodline and examine the ripple effects of Suman's disgrace. Because in this society, the tragedy doesn't just stop with the individual who falls.
Suman becoming a known courtesan in Dalmandi completely and utterly ruins the marriage prospects of her younger sister, Shanta.
This brings up a concept that can be difficult for modern, highly individualistic listeners to grasp: the weight of collective shame.
It is a vital concept to understand the stakes of this novel. In the world Premchand depicts, an individual's actions do not just condemn the individual. They act as a virus that taints the entire bloodline.
Suman's actions in Dalmandi essentially brand her younger sister, Shanta, as radioactive. She is deemed unmarriageable to any respectable family of the family unit.
And the timing, much like Krishna Chandra's arrest, is cruel beyond belief. Shanta's actually engaged. Her wedding is literally right about to happen. The preparations are finishing up. The guests are arriving.
But the groom's family is led by this incredibly pragmatic, greedy man named Umanath. When whispers of Suman's new life in Dalmandi reach Umanath, he immediately halts everything.
First, he uses the scandal as leverage. He demands an extortionate extra 1,000 rupees in dowry just to proceed with the tainted marriage, knowing the family can't pay it.
But ultimately, even the money isn't enough to wash away the stain. The mere association with Suman, the horrifying fact that the bride is the biological sister of a known, practicing courtesan, causes Umanath and the groom's side to pack up and completely abandon the wedding on the very day it was supposed to happen.
The family is publicly humiliated, financially ruined, and socially dead. And this precise moment of absolute rock bottom is the exact moment Krishna Chandra is released from prison.
The tragic timing of Premchand's plot is like clockwork.
It's brutal. Krishna Chandra has served his time. He has paid his debt to society for the bribe. He walks out of the prison gates blinking in the sunlight, probably hoping to find some small semblance of the life he left behind, maybe hold his daughters.
Instead, he walks into a nightmare. He finds his family entirely, utterly destroyed. The original mortal sin he committed to save them, taking that money from the Mahant, has resulted in their absolute annihilation.
Suman is a courtesan, Shanta is abandoned at the altar and unmarriageable, and his wife Gangajali is a broken, weeping shell of a human being.
There is a haunting, incredibly cinematic scene described in the text that captures the sheer weight of this failure. Krishna Chandra doesn't go home immediately. He wanders the busy streets of the city at night, a ghost in his own life.
He eventually finds his way to the edge of Dalmandi. He stands there in the dark, hiding in the shadows, and he just looks up at the brightly lit balcony of Suman's house.
He looks at her closed door from afar. He doesn't go in. He doesn't yell out to her. He just stares in the physical manifestation of his failure.
Imagine the crushing, suffocating psychological weight of that moment. He's a man who destroyed his own world, corrupted his own pure soul, all out of a misplaced, desperate sense of duty to his daughter.
And the result is that his daughter is trapped behind that door, selling herself to survive.
It is a moment of profound, paralyzing despair, and it highlights the inescapable systemic nature of the traps these characters are caught in. And this actually brings us to a very interesting, highly prophetic socio-political excerpt from Karmabhoomi that is vital to understanding Premchand's worldview.
Yes, and let's explore this. It's fascinating to look at Premchand's socio-political predictions here. Through the character of Lala Samarkand, he posits a bold theory that the historical religious divides that have caused so much strife in society will eventually be completely eclipsed by class warfare.
It's a striking sociological prediction for the era, looking purely at economic tribalism. Now, to be clear, we are just presenting the author's vision here as it is laid out in the source material.
Exactly. We are just imparting what Premchand wrote without taking a stance on it.
The text lays out Samarkand's belief that the era of fighting over religion is drawing to a close. He predicts that the future of human conflict will be defined strictly by economic lines: the rich versus the poor, those who hoard property versus those who are starving in the streets.
He prophesies that this new alignment of class warfare will cause even greater bloodshed and foster even more narrow-mindedness than the religious conflicts of the past.
It is Premchand offering a very specific materialist vision of societal evolution. He is shifting the lens from religious morality, which Krishna Chandra tried and failed to live by, to stark economic survival, which is what ultimately crushed him.
It is a dark, heavy prediction, but it perfectly, seamlessly mirrors the economic desperation that drove Krishna Chandra to take that bribe in the first place and drove Suman to Dalmandi. It wasn't a lack of faith that destroyed them, it was a lack of capital.
But, and this is crucial, Sevasadan doesn't end in complete nihilistic despair. The narrative slowly, painfully moves toward an awakening and, ultimately, redemption.
Yes, the second half of the novel is about rebuilding from the ashes. It starts with Suman. Living as a highly sought-after courtesan, Suman experiences a profound internal realization.
She has the luxury she once envied. She wears the finest silks, she has wealthy, powerful men visiting her and offering her gifts. She has a perverse kind of power over them.
But she realizes, staring into the mirror, that this life completely and utterly lacks true respect. It is an illusion of power.
She has a remarkably honest, painful conversation with Sadan. She looks at this young man who is ruining his life for her, and she tells him the truth.
She tells him that she is choosing to give up both the worldly pleasures of Dalmandi and the exhausting, futile pursuit of traditional societal respect. She is looking for a third way, a middle path.
She realizes that the respect of a society so deeply corrupt that it drove her father to prison and forced her onto the streets isn't actually worth having. And the luxury of her current life is hollow, built on her own degradation.
So Suman does the unthinkable. She completely transforms her life. She walks away from the money. She leaves Dalmandi. And she takes a monumental step. She establishes an ashram.
This ashram is the titular Sevasadan, the house of service. But it isn't just a generic charity. It is specifically built for the daughters of courtesans.
Let's really dive into what that means. Why the daughters of courtesans?
Because she recognizes the systemic trap. The women in Dalmandi are trapped, but their daughters are doomed before they even take their first breath. They are born into the trade with absolutely no way out.
Suman takes in these young girls who are locked into the exact same cycle she was pushed into. She gives them a safe haven from the men who view them as future commodities.
But she doesn't just hide them, she empowers them. She teaches them strict discipline, she provides them with practical, marketable skills, and she gives them back their dignity.
We see the profound impact of Suman's work when a ghost from her past visits, Subhadra, the respectable, wealthy lawyer's wife, the woman whose comfortable life Suman used to bitterly envy, actually comes to visit this Sevasadan ashram.
And Subhadra is deeply, genuinely moved. She walks the grounds, she sees the peace, the rigorous order, and the quiet dignity that Suman has cultivated.
Suman has essentially found a way to reclaim her inherent worth, completely outside of the traditional restrictive roles of either a subservient wife or a commodified courtesan. She has created her own space.
She has become an agent of healing in a deeply wounded world, and Suman's transformation acts as a catalyst for Sadan's redemption, too. Sadan finally, painfully, grows up. He realizes the emptiness of his vanity.
He leaves the toxic, decadent, suffocating environment of the city. He literally abandons the shiny shoes, the scented soaps, the stiff European collars. He strips away the artifice.
Where does he go? What does he do?
He goes to the river. He begins to live a hard, physically demanding, incredibly honest life among the Mallas, the working-class boatmen who make their living on the banks of the mighty Ganges River.
He trades the illusion of wealth for the reality of blisters and sweat?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the ultimate soaring message of Premchand's masterpiece. He isn't just writing a tragedy to depress us or to purely condemn the society of his time.
He is actively offering a philosophical path forward. He is arguing, through the arcs of these characters, that true salvation doesn't come from hoarding wealth and power, which is what the character Manorama fiercely argued for in Kayakalp.
And doesn't come from a rigid, isolated, hollow kind of honesty that lacks empathy, which is what Krishna Chandra initially tried to embody.
Exactly. True salvation, genuine human liberation, comes from active, compassionate service to the marginalized. It comes from stepping outside the rigged game entirely.
The imagery Premchand uses in these final scenes is just beautiful. It is so visually striking. On one hand, you have Suman running the ashram with quiet, powerful dignity, actively nurturing the next generation and breaking the cycle of trauma.
And on the other hand, you have Sadan living in a simple, rough-hewn hut by the river. There's a scene where he is celebrating the birth of his child, surrounded not by wealthy socialites, but by the rough, honest, working-class boatmen.
The contrast is deliberate and stark. They both left the dark, claustrophobic, treacherous alleys of Dalmandi. They escaped the oppressive, hypocritical rules of the so-called respectable city.
And they found true spiritual liberation in the open, breezy, sunlit banks of the Ganges. They found freedom not by winning society's game, but by refusing to play it, focusing instead on honest labor and selfless service.
Okay, let's take a breath and recap this incredible, epic journey we've been on today. We started with Sub-Inspector Krishna Chandra's fatal, tragic compromise. Trading 25 years of pristine integrity for a bribe from a corrupt, elephant-riding Mahant, all to pay a crushing dowry.
We witnessed Suman's heartbreaking, terrifying fall from grace, locked out of her own home by a cruel husband and driven into the red light district of Dalmandi by a broken system.
We watched Sadan's infuriating struggle with youthful temptations, nearly bleeding his desperately poor family dry just for the sake of urban vanity.
And finally, wonderfully, we saw their incredible rise. Suman painstakingly building the Sevasadan ashram to save the vulnerable, and Sadan finding hard-won, honest peace on the river.
It is a masterful, timeless exploration of human morality under unbearable pressure. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering, provocative question to mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Premchand wrote these words over a century ago in a completely different era. But think about your own life today. Think about your own workplace, your own industry, your own social circles.
How often do we, right now, still judge the worth of people by the wealth they possess and the clothes they wear, rather than the actual service they provide to the world?
And if you, yes, you, were truly forced into a corner, if you were forced to choose between your absolute pristine moral integrity and the literal survival and future of your children today, are you absolutely sure you wouldn't take the bribe?
That is a heavy, unsettling thought to chew on. Would you have jumped into the river? Thank you so much for joining us on this extensive deep dive. We hope you found the journey through Premchand's world as fascinating and revealing as we did. And reminding you once more, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the Simplified Summary YouTube channel. Hit that like button and drop a comment below sharing your thoughts on Krishna Chandra's impossible choice. Let us know what you would have done. Until next time, keep diving deep.